on. Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. I'm your host, Coach Paul Tripoli, on the special edition for Saturday, right next to my good friend, Coach Mark Hobley, here in Tripoli Studios. We have the great Ozzie Newsome on, college and NFL Hall of Famer, former Bama end, and Cleveland Brown tight end. Ozzie, I say end because Coach Bryant called you the greatest end in Alabama history. And you played – I think you're a pioneer in the sense that you play tight end, but you're also split out wide. Now they do it a lot. Talk about that.
Well, we ran the wishbone, and so you had three backs and two receivers, and you could switch from being an outside guy to being in tight, based on formations, based on the play call. So, on some plays I could line up in tight as a tight end, but then on other plays I would line split out as a split end. So he just called me an end.
Wow. Let's start at the beginning, Oz. Talk about your mom and dad and your siblings growing up outside of Huntsville, not far from Town Creek, Layton, Alabama. I talked to Carrie Good. Carrie said hi.
Well, good. I'll probably get a chance to see Carrie. I'm coming to Alabama on Thursday to play in a golf tournament that Jimmy Rain has every year in Montgomery. So I'm going to get a chance to see Carrie and a lot of other Alabama and Auburn alumni at this function. But yeah, I grew up in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, right near the airport. And but I lived outside of the city limits, so I had to go to the county school. And so I went to Carver County High School. First it was leading training, but then Carver County High School. And there we had a pretty good team. My junior year, we won the state championship in basketball, football, and we were runner-up in baseball. And Phil Gargis was our quarterback, and Thad Flanagan was the other end on that team. And on the basketball team was Leon Douglas. So we had a great run of athletes. And we had, and like I said, we won state championships, and then, was fortunate enough to be offered an opportunity to get scholarships. I committed to go to Auburn because of Phil Gargis. They were saying that Gargis to Newsome would be the next Sullivan to Beasley. So I committed to Auburn, but 3 days before the signing date, I changed my mind and decided to go to Alabama, and I can say the rest is history.
Oh my gosh, talk about that. Talk about that decision. I heard that Coach Bryant dispatched John Mitchell to recruit you, and he also got Johnny Davis, the great fullback. Did you play high school football with Johnny?
No, Johnny grew up in Montgomery.
Oh, okay.
Went to Sidney Lanier. Yeah.
Okay.
We became best friends through the recruiting process, and then also in the high school all-star game. That they used to have the North versus South in the all-star game, both basketball and football. But after I made that commitment to Auburn, Coach Bryant called me and asked me, would it be okay if John Mitchell came up and spent some time with myself and my parents? And I agreed to do that. John and I went out to dinner. And while I was at dinner, I just, I go, you know what? I really want to go to Alabama. And so I committed to John, and then we called Coach Bryant and told him. And Danny Ford was the main recruiter in that area. So Danny came up the next day, and he didn't let me out of his sight up until I signed on that dotted line.
That reminds me of the story of Howard Schnellenberger, Coach Bryant sending him up to get Joe Namath, and he actually packed his bags and left with him, brought him back to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, recruiting was a little different back then. People could disappear for like 3 or 4 days.
Oh my gosh, Ozzie, tell me about kind of when you're looking at an athlete. You played multiple sports. I played multiple sports. I'm worried about the specialization because I think it's an advantage for multiple sport players in a number of reasons. Do you also look at that in the background when you're looking at players?
Well, yes, we do. When you have the opportunity to, play 3 or 4 sports, because now you put golf in there, now you put tennis, you put soccer, lacrosse. Lacrosse is really big here in Maryland. All you're doing is developing your athletic skills, your hand-eye coordination, your ability to focus. All of those things are getting developed year round. And when you just become a singular sport player, then at some point you're not developing other aspects of your body that you will need as you continue to go through your career.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Bama football is different now than when you and I played, but in a lot of ways, Ozzie, it remains the same. 71 through 74, only one regular season loss. Yeah, I think you only had a handful of losses at Alabama. The great players that you played with, Dwight Stevenson, Bob Baumhauer, you, Johnny Davis, Don McNeil, E.J. Jr., Byron Braggs, Tony Nathan, Barry Krause. I could go on and on and on. But,
Yep.
Man, what a group you guys had.
We was. I think we all attracted each other to from one to another. I was attracted by Johnny. Tony was attracted by Johnny and I. Dwight was attracted by Terry Jones. So there was an attraction that we had during that time. The attraction that I had with Don McNeil. So we all attracted, but we all came from basically similar backgrounds where we had a mother and father in the house. A lot of us had been to integrated schools, so we had learned how to adapt to other environments, to being around other people other than our own color. So I think that all, contributed to us. And like I said, it made it very easy. It wasn't a lot of us African Americans at Alabama during that time. But, since we came from similar backgrounds, but the biggest thing about being at the University of Alabama, you wasn't black, you wasn't white, you wasn't blue, you were an Alabama football player, and that was it.
Ozzie, well said. You once said Martin Luther King Jr. preached equality and Coach Bryant practiced it. Coach was not prejudiced against anyone, including me, a slow, fat, dumb, weird, white Yankee walk-on. He didn't care what you looked like. He didn't care if you're from the North, South, All-American from Tuscaloosa. He could measure a kid's heart more than anybody I've ever seen.
And I think that leads to all of the national championships, all the SEC championships, going to all the bowl games, is that, you had to be a good citizen. You had to be a good person. And he would help develop you to become a good football player.
Yeah, I don't know why he got me. Of course, I had to walk on. I don't think he offered me a scholarship. I didn't get one until later on. You're a first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns, the Brownies, the Dog Pound. Talk about your moments as a great player there in Cleveland. You had so many of them, but talk about your great years with the Browns.
Well, like you said, I was drafted in 78 and was kind of a little disappointed. Cleveland had 2 picks, and I thought I was going to go in the first pick they had, but they picked Clay Matthews, who's a guy from USC that we had played against when Alabama played SC out there that year. So I knew he was a great player in high school and in college. So I go to Cleveland. I did not go to the rookie minicamp because my parents wanted me to graduate, go through the graduation exercises. As of right now, a lot of the teams in the NFL have just had their rookie minicamps either last week or this past weekend that we've been able to bring them in. So that's what happened to me. So I came in the following week with the veterans. And my first 3 practices of that minicamp, I played wide receiver and was having some success. And when they asked me to stay over for another 3 or 4 days. And when I went to the office the next day for practice, for workouts, Rich Kotite, who was coaching the tight ends and the wideouts at that point, who went on to become a head coach with the Jets and the Eagles, I think, And he said, Sam, Rich Igliano wanted to meet with me. And I said, okay. So I went up to his office, and Sam said he thought I did really well during minicamp and that I could have a real good career in the National Football League. But he said, we want to move you to tight end. And we're going to move you to tight end because we're going to throw you the football. And I go, okay, and so, like I said, I had lined up near the tackle at Alabama and split out. So I had lined up next to the tackle. I had never really been a tight end. But having Rich Kotite to be my position coach, a guy that had played the position, it really helped me to learn how to play the tight end position the way. And they did throw me the football.
You got a question?
Mr. Newsome, you mentioned the young man from USC. Did you play in that game where that was played in Birmingham?
No, it was a couple of years before.
It was a couple of years before him.
Yeah. No, I did not play in that game, which was the game that really they say led to Coach Bryant, convincing the powers that be that he need to recruit African Americans, because Sam the Bam came there and had a hell of a day. And I did get a chance to spend time with Sam the Bam. Once we got into the league, he used to come back to Alabama to a golf tournament. But that was the game. But we played in the next series, which would have been 77 and 78, I think, was the next series of the home and home against USC.
You're absolutely right. That game there, pretty much, that changed the South.
Yeah.
I think, Coach Bryant, whatever you guys are saying about Coach Bryant, it led through the governor's office, and it might have affected United States of America, because that gentleman there was probably headed to the presidency.
Yes, he was. It was, and that was the reason why Coach Bryant scheduled that game, because he was having a tough time being able to get African Americans on his team. So he scheduled that to let the state of Alabama know what they were missing.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Oz, does it help you as an executive to be a player and understand their positions and negotiations and everything else?
Well, yeah, but I also coached for 5 years. I was on the staff with Belichick. That's when my first work with Nick Saban. We were on the same staff with Bill Belichick, and along with Kirk Ferentz, Pat Hill. It was a big time staff that we had there, and the other 5 other guys that went on to become GMs. But I think having coached, having played, was the reason why that Mr. Modell decided to offer me that position, so I could identify with the coaches, I could identify with the players, understand what both coaches and players are going through. Working for Belichick, what better coach to work for him and learn, everything that he had to offer me. So it just gave me that background and that foundation, and I used that to help me become an executive.
Boy, those early 90s, I wish I'd have stayed with the club. Those early 90s Browns staff was unbelievable. Also had Bill Cowher. I remember Bill Cowher being leaving.
Yes, I played with Bill Cowher.
Right, he was my special teams coach there in Cleveland. And then linebackers. Wow, everybody's happy Lamar Jackson signed. He seems to be down-to-earth, hardworking guy. To let everybody know what kind of guy Lamar is.
Well, he's turning the corner to becoming a great quarterback. And that's the number one thing. But he's been a great person his majority of his life, his whole life. His father died at a very early age, I think around 8 or 9 years old. And he was raised by his mom. He's very close to his mom. They have a great relationship. And, she's, I heard a story, and, you hear stories a lot, that he went to Louisville because he was going to play quarterback, and that was it. A lot of other schools were recruiting him, going to move him to running back, defensive back, or receiver, but he went to Louisville, and she found out that he was catching punts. And so she drove to Louisville and said, he's not catching punts, he's a quarterback. So yeah, but like I said, he's a phenomenal talent, a great guy in the locker room. And, having signed him now for another 5 years, when I saw him at the press conference, I told him, we went to black. You still there?
Yep, still good.
Okay.
We're still good.
Okay.
I still see and hear you.
You do?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, when I saw him at the press conference, I told him, I said, I got 2 Super Bowl rings and I need another one. And he called me Mr. Ozzie. He said, Mr. Ozzie, I need my first one and let's go get it together. I said, well, okay, that's what I want to hear. But yeah, I mean, he's a fan. That 3 years ago when he won the MVP, it was no doubt when he stepped on the field, he was the best player on the field. And a lot of times when we play, and there's a lot of great players in the National Football League, but a lot of the times when we step on the field, Lamar is the best player on that field.
Yes, he is. You played with some great players. Of course, Johnny Davis, John Mitchell, Wilbur Jackson, they all had influences on you. But who was your mentor as a player or an NFL team executive? Who did you look up to and learn from?
Well, when I first went to Cleveland in '78, they signed Calvin Hill. And I knew Calvin from his years at Dallas. He was a first-round pick, and then he went to the World Football League. I think he went to Hawaii somewhere, and so then he came back, and he signed with the Browns, and we just actually hit it off. We stayed in the same apartment complex. Calvin was 10 years older than I am, and so he was a guy that I really looked up to. He helped me to navigate those first 2 or 3 years in the National Football League, kept me from making mistakes that a lot of people can make when, you run into a little wealth and the people coming at you, both sides. So Calvin, as you know, Calvin was the guy that presented me at the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Mr. Newsome, where did Calvin Hill graduate from?
Yale.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So
yes,
you surrounded yourself
he was
with
an Ivy League.
you surrounded yourself with someone who was obviously, with you being born in 1956 and this guy was 10 years older, obviously you were a smart guy yourself to get associated with him. My father used to talk about Calvin Hill, and he used to say some kind of saying about the Yale man. He always used to call him the Yale man. That's the Yale man. Yeah. You just brought that back.
His dad,
30 years ago.
His dad played for Jake Gaither.
And we still talk. Calvin and I, we still talk probably 2 or 3 times a month. His wife just passed away in the last 4 or 5 months. And, his son is Grant Hill, who's, a big time basketball player and does the NCAA, the finals and so forth. Good family. But yeah, Calvin is still very much a part of my life. He don't love golf as much as I do. So if he did, we probably would spend more time together.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, we got to play golf together, Oz. Marlon Humphrey's a great player. His dad, Bobby, was pretty darn good himself. He comes on my show, and recruiting, evaluating, drafting, it's all difficult. Maybe more science than art, but what characteristic do you find in players that are intrinsic or instinctive that you put value on?
Number one, is he a football player? We don't want track stars. We don't want weightlifters. We want football players. We want guys that are good athletes that can change direction, that got a burst, but also just have a passion and a love for the game. They just don't do it for Sundays. They do it, 7 days out of the week, 365 days out of the year. And that's the way Marlon is. When I spoke with Nick Saban about it, and Nick coaches the corners at Alabama.
Right.
And, it's not easy having the head coach, his specialty being your position. So we knew he had gotten some tough love along the way also in having to deal with Nick. But yeah, he came in and earned his way, but, being a great special teamer. But, he's one of the leaders of this team in this community. He does a lot in the community of Baltimore. He's here now and organized, not OTAs, but just we got some on-field walkthroughs that he's participating in. But, he's one of the leaders that we have in our locker room, and we you need more than one, and he's won about 4 or 5. But Marlon is a guy that on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, whenever we play, you can count on him being ready to go.
Gosh, when the Ravens won Super Bowl 25 in 2001, whipping the Giants 34-7, talk about that experience. And then again in 2013, when you beat the 49ers, was that a different feeling? Was it more like a validation that you were doing the right things? Talk about those 2 Super Bowl wins, Oz.
Well, I think, yeah, it was a validation, but there's 2 different clubs. That 2000 team, we had a defense. And I don't know if there's going to ever be a defense that is good as it is. And, they used to tell Shannon Sharp, who we signed, and I used to listen at his mouth all the time because he was trying to break my records. But they would say, hey, Shannon, just give us 10 points and we'll win the game. That defense was unbelievable. And they took that all the way into the Super Bowl. And the last Super Bowl that we won, Flacco got hot in the playoffs. I mean, I think he was like 13-1, 13 TDs and 1. And then our defense played well enough. But with Flacco getting hot at the right time, it's all about when you can have that hot hand. I mean, we saw it the other night with the guy from the Celtics that went for 51 in Game 7. You know what? He got hot at the right time. So that's what it was. But, playing in the Super Bowl, there's no experience like it. And I need to at least taste at least one more time.
Yes.
Toughest player you ever saw, Oz?
Toughest, best, I don't know. I played against Lawrence Taylor, and you could say he was tough. You could say he was great. You could, whatever Lawrence wanted to do on the football field, he could do. But when you talk about toughness, we had guys, guys that played hurt, right now we got MRIs and all of that. And, guys playing with injuries and stuff like that. So I'm trying to think, but, we had a lot of, I think everybody at Alabama had to be tough to live through that lower gym, If you can make it out of the lower gym, you had to be tough, and some of them no-time scrimmages,
A lot of people, everybody doesn't know about the lower gym, but it was just a small gym with no windows, one door, and it was hot and it was brutal down there in the lower gym. Oh my gosh.
And I remember my first time going in there, and I didn't go since I had started my freshman year. The other freshmen started 2 weeks ahead of, Coach Bryant told me to start with the other upperclassmen. I went in there and about halfway through that workout, I said, if it's okay to walk out of here and quit, then I'm gonna do it. But for some reason I held on. I don't know how. Guys were going to the puke bucket and all of that. But but if I hadn't pushed myself, then I could have easily walked out of that lower gym that day and said, I'm done with football.
Oh my gosh. I thought about quitting hundreds of times, especially when Donahue would line me up 10 yards apart from EJ Jr. and Byron Braggs as a 185-pound DB walk-on and go straight at him. One time, I think EJ Jr. got me to the ground just reeling me around, and they blow the whistle. Donahue would not blow the whistle, and my helmet was over there, my mouthpiece over there, my chin strap over there. Oh my gosh! All right.
Yeah, that gauntlet drill was a serious drill. It's drills like that, they don't even allow that to happen on the football field anymore.
One of the smartest players you ever saw, you ever played against or played with?
I would say Bernie Kosar.
Yeah.
Bernie played at Miami. Went through the supplemental draft so that he could come to Cleveland. And from the time that he got there, you could just say that he was heads above understanding protections, routes, where the ball need to go, his drops. So, and could decipher a defense, So I would say he was probably not one of the smartest, if not the smartest player I played with.
Yeah, he graduated at Miami in business finance in 3 years. He was a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
Do you have? I like surprise guys when I coach. Somebody who's a pleasant surprise that come out of nowhere and just overcame any odds. Can you think of an underdog player or surprise guy that you have
Yeah,
had?
we had a little running back from I think Glassboro State. I think he was named Dino Hall, and Dino was, I mean, very undersized, didn't have a lot of weight, but he had a big heart, and he'd run down and cover kicks. He did whatever he had to do to make that team, and he'd make the team. So if it was ever anybody that overachieved, as we would say now in personnel, I would say Dino Hall would be that person.
Awesome, Oz. Well, how are things there at the club? Is everybody psyched? I guess you guys just got done with mini camps, but what do you get? A few months off before training camp starts? Is this kind of like a
Well, no, starting Monday, we have what we call organized team activities, where you can actually go offense versus defense. So the defense is like a miniature version of training camp.
Mhm.
Where the defense is putting in their schemes, their coverages, their fronts. The offense is working on. We got Todd Monken here. Is working on implementing their offense. So, but we'll get a chance to go against each other. We have not been able to do that up until we can start on May 22nd, when we'll have 10 days to be able to do that, 10 practices, and then we can have a mini camp. So, and then we'll take the break. So the break will come probably mid-June. And then around the 25th of July, we strap it on, and hopefully our team is the last one standing.
I hope so
Yes,
too.
sir.
I hope so too, Oz. I think playing and practicing hard is harder than the games is a must for the game of football. And George O'Leary, my high school coach, Coach Bryant, my college coach, they all believed in really hard practices. And as a coach, I did as well. Did playing against Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield in Cleveland, did that help you in the league when those guys were? I remember.
It
I was
did.
I was just in the training camp, but man, you guys would go back and forth, and I was trying to make the team, so I was hitting everything and everybody except you. They wouldn't let me hit Ozzie.
No, you can't. No, but Hanford's probably my best friend now. I'm gonna see him this weekend in Birmingham at the golf tournament, and hopefully beat him on the golf course. But they started the dog pound and they were yapping and all of that, But me, I didn't let that bother me. I was just there to practice and play, But you know what, they did, and you know what? That's how they used to motivate themselves and to make them into the players that they were.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's the godfather of my kids, and I'm the godfather of his kids. And I'll see him this weekend, and hopefully I beat him on the golf course. Because if not, I got to listen at that mouth.
Yeah. The dogs were starting up. He probably doesn't remember me, but they did call me the White German Shepherd for that one training camp. So I guess I was part of the dog pound for like a cup of coffee. Anyway, Oz, hey, it was great to see you. It's great to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us. We look forward to having you at the Alabama Bama Club June 29th.
Yeah, it is. It should be a fun evening, and I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to seeing you. Thanks for inviting me to come on.
Thanks, Oz. Go Roll Tide and go Ravens.
Thank you.
All right, Roll Tide.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was awesome with the great Wizard of Oz, Ozzie Newsome. Was that a beautiful story? That guy's amazing. He's a great integrity guy. He's still plugging away, but we're rooting for the Ravens always because of Ozzie. We want to thank him, and I can't wait to see him June 29th for the Bama Club. On behalf of me, Coach Tripp, and Coach Hobbs, have a great sports weekend, everybody. Stay tuned for these messages from our great sponsors, who this would not be possible without them.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Hey, Bill, some game, huh?
I haven't really noticed, Paul.
What? The biggest game of the year?
I've been looking over my insurance. Talk about problems I'm trying to figure out.
Well, do what I did. Call the Seiler Agency. They showed me what I needed and what I didn't. They even saved me money. Now, instead of worrying about my insurance, I can worry about the big game.
Contact the Seiler Agency at 476-7443 for all of your insurance needs. Your independent agent for home, auto, boat, RV, commercial, general liability, life, and sound investment strategies. Call 476-7443 today.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
Step One works so hard to get you in the perfect car.
Looking for a better car buying experience? With a Step One Advantage from Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola, receive no-hassle market-based pricing or incentives by pre-ordering. Looking to sell or trade? Our dedicated team will even come to you. Plus, every vehicle sold at Step One supports local charities right in your neighborhood. Experience the Step One Advantage at Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola today.
75 years of service and high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple pane of brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting.